Welcome back to part 9 of restoring that 1915 Massey steam hammer back into the condition that it would have been in as new 110 years ago. We have now at last reached the most daunting step in this restoration, and that is the opening of the piston ring can of worms, and the curious case of the unthreading of our piston from piston rod. This component is the heart and soul of the hammer, because it is this piston rod which connects to this ram, which is dovetailed to that die, that makes the entire hitting assembly, and it makes the mass that is the hammer. It makes the 200 weight a 200 weight.
You mean it puts the mass in Massey?
That's exactly right. And that piston is running up and down in this cylinder. The piston is lifted through the ports at the bottom of the cylinder and forced down through the air coming from the ports at the top. The air pressure on this face and the sealing provided by these piston rings allows this piston to go up and then back down. Whatever we do on this stuff has to be perfect. Step 1, we need to very carefully remove the 2 good piston rings so that we don't end up with those broken too. These are made of cast iron, so they are going to be incredibly fragile. There we go. Hold you there. Hold you there. No, you don't you dare.
Like getting a bicycle tire off.
Yeah, a really, really expensive, brittle bicycle tire. Woo, hello. Very masculine of me, wasn't it? I think I'm more nervous than I was the first time because I didn't realize how important these were. There we go. She's out.
Do you want a hand with that?
Oh, Jim, it's really nice of you to suggest that. We will come back to the piston rings. Oh boy, will we. Right now, that is a crucial problem. In later years, this problem had been identified, and more recent power hammers actually have the piston and piston rod forged out of one piece of steel. Here, threaded together, they like to come unthreaded. And as Will told us, it's not even just something that's common in steam hammers, it's something that's common in steam engines as a whole. This will cause all sorts of issues, and as you can see, at one point in time, somebody had installed grub screws, and then as you can see, at one point in time, they came out, rattled all around the face, getting chewed up nicely, before getting swallowed down one of those air inlet ports. We're gonna need to unthread this thing completely so that we can clean up the threads. Oh. Yeah, yummy. A little bit of heat. Just a little warm up, 75 degrees, 150 Fahrenheit. No difference. Oh, we're gonna have to come up with better work holding because this piston, the piston rod is now twisting in the vise. There we go. Oh, that was my penis. Oh, very rare that I think I need a bigger vise. In fact, most of the time I'm like, I can get by with this, but today's the day where I need a bigger vise. It's tighter than it was beforehand. Oh my Lord. Oh, this is gonna be a nightmare. I can just sense it. This is gonna be all sorts of a problem. Oh! Ooh. Hey, might have knocked it loose though, Jamie. For goodness sake. Oh, workbench is moving now. Oh, was that it?
No, the whole thing rotated.
Oh, for goodness sake. We can make an actual adapter that isn't just a bar on some bolts to get some proper torque on this fella. Now, Jamie, come have a look at what's just arrived. It is a good day. It's been 5.5 years since I had a forklift. I thought it was about bloody time. See that monster? That is a 1978 Heister S150 7-ton lift forklift. Should be just what we need for restoring these machines that we've got. Whoa! So this apparently is a manual transmission forklift as well, which is a first for me. So I'll be clutch, brake, accelerator pedal. First gear. Second gear. Third gear.
I've never driven a forklift before.
You're not meant to say that.
Oh, I mean, I've driven a forklift so many times.
Go on, give us max height on the lift. Woo! That's up there, isn't it? As you can see, it fits in the workshop, no problem. We've got tons of room, right? No. Gonna have to find a different place to keep this. How great. The main reason for getting this is we've got 2 hammers out there that need restoring. The 1921 Pilkington Air Hammer, the Dream Hammer, the one that I've dreamed of since I was an 11-year-old child.
Well, you mean this one that's out here? That one there?
Yeah, exactly, that one there.
Right. Well, that was fun. Now back to this.
Oh, yes. Right, I need to get to the other side of the workbench. Hup. You can stay on that side, Jamie.
Oh, you could have said that a second ago, couldn't you?
Okay, I gotta put some holes in here. Jamie, you're about to lose your mind. Where does this go?
On Ugga Dugga? Wow.
Drilling with a frickin' impact gun, Jamie! We're living in the future! Thank you to the guys at Holemaker Technology. Hello. Spinning in the vise again. That's as good a time as any, isn't it? Getting a sweat on like this. Oh my goodness, I love Element, and it is a great privilege that they are the sponsor of our video. And I love that they provide me copious amounts of their fabulous sparkling electrolyte drinks. Got orange salt on the go here. They obviously have an enormous range not only of sparkling drink flavors, but also drink mix packs. They have just launched, and it's a limited edition, a brand new flavor, pink lemonade. It is fantastic. Each sachet's got 1,000 milligrams of sodium, 200 milligrams of potassium, 60 milligrams of magnesium.
And what's this? Another new flavor?
Oh yes, Jamie. Lemonade and iced tea. This particular flavor with 50 milligrams of caffeine. This stuff is great. How perfect is this gonna be? When I'm up in the mountains putting in a shift, and not only will my electrolyte drink replenish the salts that I'm losing, sweating away, but also give me a little boost of caffeine, please go to drinklmnt.com/forge, where anytime you use code FORGE at checkout with Element, you're gonna get a free sample pack of 8 sticks to try some different flavors. Use code FORGE at checkout to get those extra 8 sticks free. Let's get back to it.
I mean, you're clearly grip averaging when you need to be grip maxing. Why don't you try to put some rubber in here?
A bit stickier.
And we really need to lock in, don't we? You've got to lock it in the vise more.
All right, test with rubber. Oh, nope.
We might be cooked.
Do I have to make a stand for my bigger vise right now?
Yes!
Do you think that's what we've got to do? It's not all bad news, is it? Get to play with this gorgeous bit of history. A brute. Not just any brute. This, boys and girls, is a French brute. I picked this up from a friend of mine in France, Haute Forge, Axel. Great chap. He's got a cool Instagram you should check out.
It's definitely giving French.
Where does that even come from?
Yeah, it's a shame we didn't have someone to pick it up with.
I know. Thread is in really good condition. It's missing some stuff though. 1, a means of it not falling over. Can't exactly ratchet strap it up. 2, needs a spring here. Currently, the jaw does not auto-retract. Feature of a leg vise that's very important. All right, there's my spring. That is gonna live there once we have the addition of a U-bolt. That'll boing, boing, bing, boing, boing. But I've just had a brainwave on how we might be able to get the piston off the piston rod that doesn't involve the vise. On top of that, I placed a monstrous steel order for the plate that'll make this vise stand what it deserves to be. So back to the piston rod. So here's what I'm gonna try. We have only one feature on this piston that'll stop it rotating, and it's actually the feature that is designed to stop it from rotating in the ram itself. If I can build some way to clamp down here, bolt it all to the table, I think we might be onto a winner. That's a proper job, that's not going anywhere. 1-inch bar through that. Couple more 12mm bolts attached to the entire welding table. It's gonna be great. Oh, yeah. Oh! Ah! More leverage. Oh, it's getting really tight now. God, it is just so tight. I'm actually gonna take a look at this, how the threads are looking now. Ugh. You can see why it's being so difficult. The threads on this piston are absolutely knackered. I literally just broke those threads off of there. That was a thread on my piston that's now a thread on my finger. Look at that, do you see that? You shouldn't be able to pry your threads off your part, should you? Talk about a can of worms. I thought, I'll get the piston off those threads, run a file over the threads, and then thread them back where they need to go. It's almost looking like I'm going to need to make an entirely brand new piston. That was not on my bingo card this morning. Go on! Oh, look. Oh, she's out. Half the threads on the piston are absolutely wrecked. They're actually okay on this side. Piston rod, however, looks in great nick. That's because I'm very confident that this piston rod is hardened and hard as nails. You saw the damage that this thing did to the tapered pin as it came out of the ram. Like, this hasn't had a scratch, but that tapered pin got absolutely mullered. So, what to do now? We have about 70% good threads, 30% threads that are completely destroyed. Am I going to need to make a new bloody piston? Our piston ring grooves are not so good on this. Lower piston ring groove looks fine. Middle one looks fine. And it looks like they've got the appropriate clearance between them and the piston ring. The upper one, however, appears as though at some point in time somebody's put a bloody angle grinder zip disc in there. These grooves are meant to be an incredibly precisely machined width, as this is a critical component for how the piston rings actually go ahead and seal. See the great big chunk taken out of that piston ring groove? The only thing I can assume is that potentially at some point the piston ring kind of got stuck in there and somebody tried to release it by running a zip disc down the side of it. That's also the uppermost piston ring groove where we had the cracked piston ring. I wouldn't be surprised if that's because the upper wall that it's being jammed against 240 times a minute with 150 psi, having all sorts of funkiness going on means that that fragile cast iron ring gave out. So I already planned that one of the jobs that we needed to tackle in order to make the new piston rings was to widen this upper piston ring groove to get through that nasty angle grinder cut face that somebody did at some point in time. But as I'm now looking at the devastating state of the rest of the threads, I'm unfortunately starting to wonder about whether I'm going to have to make an entirely new one. If we're trying to do a proper job, I think that's going to need remaking. The question is, however, what are the odds? What are the odds of having a chunk of material big enough for this? Well, I might just have the perfect offcut. That, ha! It's gonna do it! What are the odds? We're in business. The only trouble is, that is probably made out of cast iron, and this is mild steel. Are we happy with that compromise? Again, going back to my previous videos, the benefits of cast iron are that it has an improved lubricity over mild steel. Now, this is not what's actually running up and down the walls inside the bore of the cylinder. That's what the piston rings do. There is a clearance gap. But the cast iron piston rings do need to be able to have some kind of movement within these grooves. It's probably ideal to use cast iron, but if you don't have cast iron, will that do the job? I'm gonna call Ben.
Hello?
Hi, Ben. Can I pick your brain for a minute?
Yeah, go for it. Mild steel should be absolutely fine.
Okay.
So, yeah, I don't see why mild steel wouldn't be usable.
All right. Thank you, mate. I appreciate your advice.
No
Cheers.
worries.
Bye. We're in business. Let's make a drawing, figure out how we're going to make it. There's my drawing. Gonna need about 80 millimeters or so. Since when does my bloody coolant work? That coolant hasn't run in 6 months. Now all of a sudden the pump works. This is brilliant, guys. So, when I cut this bit off the chunk, I thought I was gonna be able to grip it here. Turns out, it's actually not big enough to be able to grip it here. I have to grip it there, but guess what? Then we've got all of this stuff sticking out, and that doesn't get me enough width to make my part. Bugger! What a silly mistake. I need at least that much clearance. See if we can make it happen with the other half. Might not be too far off. Yeah, that looks like it's gonna be fine. Oh, I planned for this, guys. Take two. All right, now I've got to dial it in, make sure it's running true. Here we go. Biggest part I have ever turned in a lathe. Now we're going to put a new center drill in. That first one was just so I could get it in the lathe easier. We got it all turned to dimension, leaving a couple thousandths of an inch of leeway for grinding, and of course, I had to break the tool post grinder out to get that sweet, sexy surface finish. I don't think it needs it, because this doesn't ride on the bore. The piston rings are what rides on the bore, but when you can get a surface finish like that, do you say no? Time to get groovy. So these grooves are actually a little bit wider than they should be, according to the LMA handbook, which is like a steam locomotive handbook of tolerances and clearances in order to manufacture the parts, but also assess when they need a service and need to be changed. Look how weird all this is, right? That piston ring, 5.8 millimeters. This piston ring, 6 millimeters. What? That's an 8,000ths of an inch difference between them. This groove, 6.17. This groove, 6.28, 6.32, 6.29. Everything's different here. I don't think they manufactured this thing like a racing engine, where there might be like one piston ring that's designed for oil control, and then another one that's key focus is on the sealing, and all sorts of other factors that might mean that people have different piston rings in that type of stuff. But I still don't think I'm going out on a limb by suggesting that I might as well just make the piston ring grooves to the same size, and I might as well replace this really weird thin 5.8 millimeter piston ring while I'm at it, because that can't be any good. Even if we're just looking at the 6 millimeter piston ring, now have a look at the feeler gauge that I can slip inside that gap. That is a 12,000ths of an inch thick feeler gauge. The LMA handbook I'm referencing is a copy that Ben let me snap some pictures of. We go over to here. D is a piston ring. B is the width of a piston ring groove. D in B, piston ring in piston ring groove, should be 2,000ths of an inch to 6,000ths of an inch. In our best case scenario, we currently have double that clearance. Split the difference, our clearance should be 0.1 millimeters. It is currently 0.3. Our widest piston ring that we'll keep is 6 millimeters. I'm sure you know the answer now. Utilizing those textbook clearances, I'm going to be making the groove 6.1 millimeters wide. But making that groove is not so simple. Well, it could be. We could make this simple. The most obvious grooving tool I have is this. It is a parting tool. It's all well and good when we plunge it straight in. See, the material on either side of the tool supports it, and to a certain extent stops it wobbling around so much. But once we've made that initial plunge and we now need to step over to begin machining it close to our final width, it's only got support from this right-hand face. And what will likely happen is it'll actually wander off away from that face and cut a taper. That's because even if we snug this up close to the tool holder, this is not designed to handle those sideways forces. Neither is the way the insert is held, and that inner face of the piston ring groove is incredibly critical. It's critical to the sealing of the piston ring. And so I need to make something like this. We're gonna need to custom make a grooving tool out of high-speed steel that has a much better supported tip. Even in machining, need a tool, make a tool, it's part of the fun. Part of why I blooming love this stuff. It's now time to risk completely ruining the part and actually shoving the grooving tool in it. Given that this is a high-speed steel tool and it's quite a large diameter part, it seems like we're gonna need quite a slow RPM. Like that slow? Okay. As you can see, got our high-precision Sharpie lines to work to. I didn't just spend like half an hour quadruple checking my measurements to make sure that this is all gonna go in the right place. I definitely didn't do that. Definitely not what all these scribbles are. Okay, so that should be 0, thereabouts. If I come across to 6.98, that's gonna be our inner face, need a little bit of clearance. That's gonna be our first plunge. Oh, it's scary. All right, that's depth. Now we just got to do the right and the left face. Woo! That, in theory, is our first groove done. 2 more to go. There we go. Should be 3 perfect grooves. 1, 2, 3. Phew. Now, we've got to bore that big old hole, counterbore the bore, and it's then going to be onto the bit that I'm very nervous about, which is the internal threading. Oh, I sharpened that drill bit. Look at her go. Ow! I really do love how this bit of steel is cutting. This is exactly why it pays to be a hoarder in this game. I picked that steel up from my steel supplier 2 years ago, hauled it away in the back of my van, thinking maybe one day it'll come in useful. Today's the day. It's a fabulous bit of metal, and you know what that tells me? I should be acquiring far more random bits of scrap with no idea what their use is going to be, because one day it pays off. Got that whole board as far as I can so far. It needs to be threaded, but it is not quite as simple here as just reaching down into my threading drawer, picking out a tap, shoving it in a chuck, sending it in. No. And that's because this is a fairly monstrous thread. About a 63.2 major diameter, which is about 10,000ths of an inch below 2.5 inches. Now, when I first measured that, I got excited because it made me think, good, they've made this to a thread standard. Proportionally, it obviously looks quite fine thread. So I broke out my thread gauges and we found that it is a Whitworth 55 degree, 8 teeth per inch. So then we go to our thread tables. And what are we looking for? 2.5 inches, 2.5 inch Whitworth has a 4 thread per inch. That's a lot coarser. How about the fine thread series? 2.5 inch, 6 thread per inch. This thread is even finer than the British Standard Whitworth fine thread classification. It is a custom thread. So this means I'm gonna have to go here, threads per inch, find 8 threads per inch, and then do the maths based on this drawing here, looking at these numbers there to figure out the dimensions that we have to make this part to. You see, a thread is quite a complex set of geometries. Have a look at this. That's an M16 bolt, that's an M16 nut. Obviously, a 16mm bar will not fit into the nut. No, that is because of the minor diameter of the thread, which allows a 14mm bar to pass through and allows for the threads to actually, you know, have threads. The difference between the outside diameter or major diameter and the inside diameter or minor diameter is a function of the thread profile and the teeth per inch, or in the case of a metric thread, the pitch is millimeters per revolution. Now that's threads in its simplest form, but when you look closely here, you will see that the thread is not a perfect triangle with a 55 degree. In fact, it has a radius here at the crest, a radius here at the root, and the distance between the root and the crest is not the same as the geometrical distance between the top of one triangle and the bottom of the other. Where threads start is quite simple. It's just simply a helix around a bar. Cut away the negative space, bish bash bosh, but where it ends is significantly above my pay grade, but we now have the sincere pleasure of approaching the challenge head on. And that's where this comes in. Another tool that I should know how to use this, I should have one. This is a thread measuring wire set. You see, when we see that threads is a very complicated topic, we see that it's not necessarily a given that we can just take a set of calipers and call it good with the OD there. You see that we definitely can't take a set of calipers and shove them in the minor diameter, because guess what? That's not gonna get in there. 2, because it's a helix, it's got an angle on it, which means you're never gonna be measuring square to it. And that's where these are meant to come in. By measuring with 3 wires and using the accompanying tables, we should be able to get a very accurate measurement of this male thread in order that we can then reverse engineer it and turn the correct, perfect fitting female thread. But the table only has 60-degree metric threads or 60-degree imperial threads. I need a 55-degree British Standard Whitworth thread profile. Wires. Yeah! Diameters of wires for measuring American Standard and British Standard Whitworth screw threads. Phew! 2 wires will go on one side, 1 wire will go on the other, and those 3 points are going to create a flat plane that we can measure across. Oh, I think we're cooking now, boys. Stay. In comes the micrometer. Okay. 64 millimeters exactly. Trouble is, these tables don't really lines up perfect. See, Whitworth, I don't have 2.5, 8. I am very confused right now. 0.125 times. That took an age, but I'm feeling pretty confident. We've done a hand calculation from Machinery Handbook, getting a pitch diameter of 2.1426, is that we can now reverse engineer these measurements to get the exact figures that we need to turn on the lathe. I'm feeling confident. Get that hole to the right size for our minor diameter. Now we know what that should be. A little bit of zip zap zop on the lathe. Then we've got to make an internal threading tool. This is a commercial internal threading bar with a carbide insert that won't do because that's metric and tiny. And so, with the help of this bit of high-speed steel and the rest of my steel rack, we're gonna make our own. Okay, put another set screw in our bar and flip the orientation of the tool so that we can do the reverse inside out Joe Pye YouTube special. It's gonna be my first time trying this technique. His channel's filled with great machining tips that I've learned a lot from over the years. The idea is we spin the lathe backwards, the tool cuts on that face, and then as we engage the lead screw, the carriage is moving out as opposed to in to that fixed stop, risking a crash at every single pass. Wish me luck. Okay, in we go. All right, let's take a little spring pass, shall we? I really hope this works. It's on its way out. It's headed in the right direction. Is it an 8 teeth per inch or is it not? Oh, it looks perfect to me. Lube her up and send it. In principle, that is to the depth that the math told us to go to. In principle, it should work. Unfortunately, I don't have like a plug gauge, which is the proper way to kind of, oh yes, we're good, or oh no, we're not. The only plug gauge I have weighs 50 kilograms. And is the bloody piston itself. And the threads on this are pretty mangled. I should have probably cleaned these up before making this part. Thank goodness I got my equilateral 55-degree file, you know, because they make equilateral 55-degree files for filing Whitworth threads. Now cranky crank gently. Sorry, Jamie. God. I did want a tight thread. That might be too tight.
Well, what's the next step?
Deeper.
Deeper.
Yep, when in doubt, deeper.
Harder.
Faster, stronger.
And for longer.
Couple of minutes. Oh, you want to try?
This does not weigh 50 kilograms.
Whoa! See? 55 kilos, Jamie. 33.3 kilos. A bit higher up. Oh, yeah. Get in that hole. Come on. Why will you not go? Ooh, it moved an eighth of an inch. Twist! Gotta go deeper, Jamie. Gonna open it up another tickle, but I'm only just doing a tickle at a time because the end result here is I want this to thread on really snugly. I don't want to open it up so much that we end up with a functional but loose thread. No, this needs to be a really nice fit, so I don't want to overdo it. Oh, it's threading, and it got stuck again. You're not going to believe it. I actually have a use for this ridiculous spanner. Ha!
Does this not lock?
We cannot take it out of gear because I think that will then lose our lead screw position, which if we need to do more threading, we can't do. So the only way this will lock is if we hang on to it. Okay, I think that's too tight. Another pass on the lathe.
You got deja vu?
A little bit, how about you? Go on. Oh. Go on! Yeah, boy! Much better. Yes. Go on, son.
Oh man, that went really smooth.
Nice. Oh, it's feeling good. All right, let's call it there. I reckon with a little extra leverage, we're gonna get it on when the time is right. Now, onto a little counter bore, and then we part it off. I am very proud with how this part has turned out. Another part in this project that has done a fabulous job of challenging me to be a better machinist than I was before. It's been a really exciting time in the workshop lately. Really pushing myself. That will spin on there. You know what that means, Jamie?
Make piston rings?
No.
I thought you were going to make piston rings in this video.
I was really hoping to. But look at this. I can't thread it on because the threaded holes for the retaining grub screws, there is no way to make that match up in this component at the correct rotation when it's correctly torqued, which means that I need to build that threaded hole up with weld, return this thread through those welded portions on either side. The rabbit hole is never ending, and I can't even say I'm upset about that because I'm having an absolute blast. So thank you all for watching. Enormous thank you to Element for sponsoring us. At some point, this hammer is going to be back up and running, and hopefully, I'm trying my best.
And then we'll start on the next one.
Yes, but I'm hoping it's going to be back up and running as good as, if not better than it ran in 1915. See you soon. Bye-bye.